Okay, so please give a very warm welcome to Joel Hughes.
Hi guys, so my name is Joel Hughes, and I run a company called Hingford, based in Newport, South Wales. That's recently been renamed. I've been going since 2001, but hopefully you'll see from this talk I'm sort of changing the business direction slightly, so I'd come up with a new name. There's nothing particularly thoughtful behind that name, apart from the domain name is available, as was the Twitter handle, which these days is about as good as you can go for a strategy of naming. I also run an event called Port 80 Events. We'll touch on that later. Apart from the day job of doing web design, or is that too close there? Is that right, man? Yeah, sweet about. Apart from just running the business of creating websites, which I'll delve into a little bit more, I do run some web conferences, as we just mentioned. But the main one I want to speak to you about tonight, as Keith said, I'm doing this sort of mini roadshow where I'm talking about one of my new conferences, which is the business of web design. I've been running since 2001 now, which is quite a long time in terms of web. I used IE3 when it first came out, so I'm officially an old git when it comes to these things. Now, whilst I've always been quite good technically and creatively, I've not always been very good at running a business. And that's a different set of skills. Who in the room, I mean, you all must do something to do with websites in the room, hence you're here. Who in the room gets paid or does something for that in terms of doing your websites? You put your hand up. Okay? All right, that's quite a few of you. So I think a lot of you will resonate with some of the points I'm going to mention here today. So yeah, there is a conference coming. This is the web design. It's the 18th of July. It's the reason for my little talk. There's a Twitter account, and again, that one's sponsored by Campaign Monitor, which makes my life a lot easier, so I can do this. Yeah, thanks very much for having me here. I'll be talking about three main things here. I'll be talking about what I'm doing here. Oh, let's go back a slide. Talking about Hingford and in terms of WordPress, because we do use WordPress a lot for the websites that we work on, and then I'm going to talk about the conferences, but I do have some freebies, so it's not all me just sort of pimping my conferences. Yep, I have got some t-shirts printed. And what do you think? Not bad? Yes, I have got some t-shirts printed up. I collected them at 6 o'clock this morning, so if I look haggard, it's because of that. I'm going to try and use some technology later on, and I think we all know that's going to go wrong. But if you use the hashtag TBO, as in the business of Roadshow London, towards the end of it, hopefully I can select a couple of winners, 3 winners, and I've got some t-shirts in the back. That's if the technology works. So I couldn't get on the internet with a laptop. It's been fine today, but you know, technology. So I'll have to do it from the mobile phone. So yeah, TBO Roadshow London. Just any old tweet with that in, and I can pick up your username. Okay, what do I do? I is a loose term, of course, because I've got a team of people. I've been running since 2001, but now I don't do all of the donkey work. I leave that to people who are much more talented than myself, which is probably most of you in this room. But we use WordPress a lot for the websites in general. It's helping people, businesses, and organizations achieve their goals online. With a lot of people, that might be what's called a brochure website. That's a pretty derogatory term, because for most people, a brochure website can be really important. You've got to work hard for the client to understand what their products and services are, what their tone of voice is, what they're trying to achieve online. Then you need to bring that out online, because you want to try and create something which their target audience can appreciate, and if they land on the website, it resonates with them, and they go on to purchase or whatever they do. Now, in this case, we're seeing the Monster Council website, because that was a WordPress one. We hear a lot of, I'm not sure if anyone in the room has this themselves, you hear a lot of negative press around WordPress. You can't do this, you can't do that. The previous CMS system they had, there was an absolute mess, which it was a proprietary thing. And if anybody's been developing for a while, they'll have come across some proprietary systems which the person who wrote it says it's better than what's out there, but anybody else who's got to use it, including the user, says, oh my God, what a disaster zone. So the users were very happy that we switched over to WordPress, and we did a lot of funky things with that. Yeah, one set the tone for sort of where I came from in 2001, because that leads into why I was doing the conference. So 2001, I was a I was a permanent employee doing web development. I don't like being told what to do. So that didn't really last very long. I drifted into contracting. My definition of contracting is where you sort of go on site for X period of time, so you'll be at an agency. Then I went on what I would describe as freelance, where you normally have a variety of clients, and that's really where the fun began for me, because I started entering into a zone then where I had to deal with clients direct. I had to learn how to speak to people about pricing. I'm sure many people in this room have had that question, how much is a 5-page website? And it's sort of, how am I meant to answer that? It doesn't really mean anything. It's like going to an architect and saying, how much is a house? But until you've got used to that question quite a few times, you don't know how to frame it for the client, because they don't know. They're not sure what they're purchasing, so it's up to us to sort of teach them, try to learn a lot of hard lessons then. The way it's gone for me now, as I sort of alluded to a couple of minutes ago, I tend to work now with lots of other freelancers who are better designers than me, better WordPress developers than me. And that achieves a lot of things for me in the sense that I can scale up my business, I can be here and do talks and stuff, but I know there's work still going on. Now that's not the direction which every business wants to go, but that's what works for me. And I'll be scaling up further to employ full-time staff. So a lot of the hard lessons I learned there, and some of them I'll just mention as part of this talk, that's what brought me to do the Business of Web Design conference, because I've always been very good technically and all those kind of things, but when you don't know much about the business side, that's what can really hurt you as a freelancer and as somebody who's out there trying to pay a mortgage. So that can be hard work. So if I can sort of put on a conference which can help avoid some of the mistakes which I made, and also to give me a vehicle to learn, because as you'll see later on some really good speakers there, then I think it can make people's lives quite a lot easier, because the web is a fascinating industry to work in, but if you get things wrong, like your way of dealing with clients, etc., then it can be very, very stressful. Yeah, mistakes, I made a few. I'm not going to sing that bar, you'll be happy to hear. A classic one of a mistake is undervaluing yourself. When you first set up in business, it's easy to think that you're competing on price and price alone. Somebody asks you how much does something cost, you're going to go, oh, it costs 100 quid, it costs 200 quid. Whatever figure comes to your mind. The problem with that, and again only experience tells you that, is that over time you realise there is always somebody out there who will do it cheaper than you. There's always somebody out there who will do it for free. So how do you compete with people who will do it cheaper than you or who will do it free? Well, you can't, of course. What you've got to do is to raise your site and get out of that marketplace so that you're dealing with a client who understands better what your services are. But for years I didn't know that. I ploughed on, trying desperately to make some money out of a 500 quid website, which was taking me 2 weeks to build. Yeah, I wasn't doing the maths very, very well on that. But of course, in those situations where things are going wrong slightly, it undermines your confidence as well. You start doubting your skills. But it ends up being quite a sort of a negative feedback loop. But yeah, not just competing on price is very important. We get a bit of feedback there, is that me standing next to that? Go away, damn you. Yeah, so you can't get involved with the race to the bottom of these things. You've got to get used to understanding that you've got a value with what you bring, and it isn't just websites. Certainly I know now it's much more about helping clients with what they're doing for the business. And you've got to be much more focused on not being backwards with coming forwards. I mean, I remember I would start going to these business networking events and people would ask what I do, and I'd say websites. And I'd almost say that apologetically. Well, people aren't going to guess what you do. So you've got to be more forthright with explaining that. And I don't mean by forthright that kind of irritating alpha male character who really grips your hand and is a complete law. But people aren't going to, they're not going to stumble across you. You can't be a hidden gem of somebody who can provide websites. So if you do excellent WordPress sites for charities and somebody asks you what you do, then you're going to say, I do excellent WordPress sites for charities. No need to be apologetic about it. I think there's something about being British where we don't want to bang our drum a bit, that's a little bit rude. But we've got to turn it up and say volume 0, not talking about what we do, up to at least 3 or 4, otherwise people will not know what we do. It's amazing that sometimes a company's in business and you'll ask them, well, you ask another person, what do you think that business does? And they don't know, because that company hasn't been, that company or that person has not been very clear on what they do for a living. Do not be that secret hidden gem. This was a very hard lesson to learn. At first, you will take any work that comes along, and in a sense, you probably need to, because I'm a great believer in the school of hard knocks and all that kind of thing, and that teaches you some good lessons. But over time, you learn that you've got to say no to certain clients. Not every client is right for you. I treated it when I started that every client was a problem for me to solve, that surely all roads had to lead to somewhere where I could convince them that they needed a responsive website, or they needed to spend a couple of grand or whatever. But that's just not how life works. Some people don't want to spend any money. We already mentioned that. There's a certain level in the market where you're not going to convince those people. That's just not going to happen. So learning to say no, learning to filter the clients quickly, which we'll talk about in a moment, that's absolutely important. Clients don't know the process of buying a website, so teaching them that is really key as well. A big one for me is, it took me a while to realise that there's people out there designing websites who do not have a clue what they're doing. I'm sure not true. But I spoke about, that's the same with every profession. You've got plumbers who are cowboys, and you get that with websites as well. And you forget that clients have had their fingers burnt, and clients don't know what the process is. Or the client might have used one-on-one's infamous site build, and they might think, well, that's how we do stuff. We just click a few buttons and happy days. And in a way, you can understand their reasoning for doing that, because that does produce a website within 2 seconds. But there's been no process to it. Nobody's actually asked them any questions about what they're trying to achieve. Nobody's done any audience research. So I always work hard on explaining to clients what my process is, and explaining to them that we don't jump into choosing colours or choosing themes straight away, so we don't know what's appropriate. And I find clients who buy into that are good clients for me. Clients go, oh no, I don't want to do any thinking, I just want it to look like this. Well, no, we can't work together, because they're not going to buy into the added value, and they may as well just go off to Dean Forest and buy things themselves. Because I've learned the hard way that you're not going to convince those people otherwise. Yeah, anyone seen this website? Yeah. We all see it, and it's always a good laugh what somebody's posted on there about what a recent client has done. I always turn it the other way, though, that it's up to us to educate our clients. Clients don't understand how to buy websites. I mean, some of them are idiots, this has to be said, but you try and filter those ones out. Your website should be filtering those ones out, so you don't have to deal with them. But a lot of the issues when it comes to the clients we have, they're not explaining to them what's going on there. Or you've allowed a client who shouldn't be your client too far into your process. But I certainly learned the hard way that bad clients, the wrong type of client, really drain you, they clog up all your time, you dread going to work the next day, and that's not a good way to spend your life. So after a few bad experiences, I was really focused on clients who've got to pass a certain test before I work with them. When you sit down with them and they're working out, oh, shall I get this person money? What they don't realise is that I'm weighing them up as well, because unless we resonate, then it's just going to be hard work, and life's too short for that. I really like my clients now, but I've had to work hard at that. In the same way that me and everybody in this room, we're just not going to get along. Some you will, some are indifferent. But that's just how life works. And it's the same principle with clients. Not being afraid to fire clients is good as well. If you've got a client who's really being a nightmare and it's an ongoing thing, you need to have a think about getting rid of them, even if you're bringing quite a bit of money in, because of all of the stress that goes with it. You've got to bear in mind that we've only got a limited amount of workflow and time available, and if they're taking up that time, that's wasting time which could have been spent on a client who was really fun and really exciting and interesting to be with. Times keep not collaborating with others. I was trying to do too much to start off with, doing all the work myself, trying to be the ultimate front-end designer and the ultimate back-end. You've got to bear in mind, I'm a dinosaur. I came from a world where the webmasters did actually rule. So I sort of carried on trying to do that. Working with other people who are more specialists in those areas. I'm sure there's some great front-end builders in here, front-end designers for WordPress and back-end people. Collaborating with people sooner made my life a lot easier. So if you're freelancing on your own now, partner up who's better on the back end, or partner up with somebody who does branding. There's some natural relationships there, which not only make your life easier, but feed work. I get most of my work from word of mouth, like a lot of people, and having that network of trusted people helps bring that work in as well. This is the funny one to find out. When I first set up, like a lot of people, I kind of got the most obvious looking agency looking website that I could. I thought, well, the people I'm going to buy into me, they've got to buy into an agency. And then I would sort of dress it up as if I had 47 people there. And that's all well and good, if you are an agency. However, if you're not, then it almost creates this sort of negative presence where you projected something online which isn't true to you. So it ends up being a situation where you can't write content, say, on the website, because it doesn't really make sense. You're saying, like, we on the website all the time, you're actually not. So it creates a bit of a disharmony, which stops you from creating good content. Because nowadays it's more than just a website. You've got to be doing your content marketing, putting your blogs out there. And if you can do that in a way which is authentic to you, then you'll produce lots of content. But producing content which is authentic to you is hard work, because then people are going, oh God, people might criticize me online. Again, yeah, that's how life works. So it is personal, very, very, very much so. I'm a great believer in people buy from people. I come across this a lot of the time when I'm speaking to freelancers. They go, hey, yeah, well, that's good, you're doing, but well, I'm not a salesperson. But if you're sat across a desk from somebody, or somebody rings up and asks for a website, or you send a proposal, you are a salesperson. You are selling. They're buying into you. At some point, that person's got to look at me now and think, okay, then I will give that person some money. I think, again, it's almost like that British thing of, a salesman is that guy in a sheepskin coat trying to flog me a dodgy car. So we don't want to be that person. But we are selling. Even if you're working for an internal in a company and you've got to explain to your boss why we got to do a responsive website, you're selling. Those are selling skills. So getting your head around that it's personal, getting your head around that we do have to sell things, that's very important. Oh, quick little time for me to grab a drink of water and to mention the hashtag again. There are some fetching colours, I have to admit. Yeah, so getting your head around the fact that mistakes are going to happen is important. You beat yourself up when mistakes happen, but it's part of the learning process. The key, of course, is that mistakes, whether it's in pricing or all those other things, as long as they don't keep on happening. When they keep on happening, that's when you sort of work out, hang on. If I'm constantly losing money on projects, then something's wrong. Either I'm charging too little or I'm working with the wrong clients. So getting your head around that is a really important thing. Of course, beat yourself up, but move on. Yeah, I'll touch on a few things. How I price websites. I try to make prices clear on my website, or at least put price ranges on there, especially for the ones which you're kind of, if I'm offering a professional services website, I know it's going to be a WordPress theme, we're going to design that bespoke, I know it's going to have their products and services on there, maybe they'll have a video, so that's an optional extra. I'm not guessing what they're going to have, but at least I've got something to show them, and I'll put kind of general prices on the website, again, because there's no point them coming to me if they're going to think it's going to cost 100 quid. I'm sure somebody can do it on the website, because somebody can do a free one, but it won't be me. So as long as they've got an idea of how much these things cost before we start speaking, then great. We can move on. So yeah, I try to package things up so we can give them a good idea of prices, or I try and sort of say, well, that website costs X, Y, and Z. So I can't sort of give them an exact price immediately, because of course, giving an exact price invariably means you've got to work really hard on to understand all the nuances. Well, that can take a day. I can't give you a day free just to give them a quote for them just to clear off. And clients wouldn't expect that either. They just want an idea. What is the price? It's just funny though, back in the early days, I used to avoid saying the price at all costs. It would really take me about 3 or 4 meetings to mention the price, because I was terrified about what their reaction would be. That was an insane situation to be in, because I just ended up wasting my time. Get the price out there quickly. I see some companies don't put prices online, that's fine. I kind of work in that 5 to 10 grand bracket. So if they're expecting to spend 100 grand, then they'll get a bargain with me. But it wouldn't be, of course, because somebody with lots of money come along. I reserve the right to use my random law of increasing the price based on whether they perceive value. So yeah, it's very important to filter out those tire kickers. Hosting and support, good for recurring revenue. It's trickier with WordPress. We'll touch on that a little bit later on. I like the hosting and the support because it maintains an ongoing relationship. Websites aren't for Christmas anymore. You know as well as anybody else that a WordPress website needs a lot of looking after. But even irrespective of the low-level stuff, we need to be looking after what our clients are doing online on an ongoing basis. They don't know what's going on with the website, bless them. But working with them with a lot of metrics and showing them what's possible, then we can keep on updating what they can do online. Oh, just a few little tips I thought I'd throw in there. Some I've picked up along the way. Sometimes I want to get the budget question out there early. I've given them an idea of my price range. Sometimes I say, how much are you looking to invest in this project? Not how much you're looking to spend, which is on a quick save a little bit. Invest, puts it onto the right footing, because they are investing. A good website's going to last them 3 to 5 years or so. If it's £5 a day and it's bringing them in 10 times the amount of work, sure, it's a good investment. So yeah, using words like investment are good for me because it frames it correctly. And yet, if they haven't got enough budget, and they wouldn't say to a plumber, can you do a deal? Plumbers will just walk out the door. They're pretty strict on things like that. You can't do a deal in Tesco's if you haven't got enough money, and neither do I. So what I try to do is say that, sure, what should we take away from the project? And people don't like having things taken away from them. So that's always a good way of testing. Are you really sure you're just trying it on? Again, in the early days of being with clients, if they said, oh, can I have a better price? Oh no, I got to give them a discount. As soon as you give people a discount, then all bets are off. They think, jackal-like, they sense the weakness, and all of a sudden they're doing it at a pound. And they're happy about it in some bizarre way. Anyone read this book? Yeah. Okay, awesome book. If you're doing a lot of dealing with clients, you've got to read this book. And there's another one coming up by Mike. Anybody know the title? It was something like Clients You Love. But absolutely fantastic book and completely worth a read. I love this quote as well from a guy in the States who does a lot of help for freelancers. If you expect to get paid what you're worth, you must change your process. You must start selling websites and start solving real pains and problems that businesses face. And lots of freelancers do this anyway. Because lots of freelancers are trying to solve deep-rooted business problems. They're not just selling websites. You're not selling a commodity. Well, let me have a touch on how we use WordPress. I mentioned we use it 80% of the time. We also do quite a few bespoke PHP applications. So it's not just a matter of we've got a WordPress hammer in our toolbox where everything looks like a nail. No, it's a tool in the toolbox and it can be used. Some of the reasons why I love it. The CMS, as I'm sure you guys know, it is, from a lot of the CMSs out there, it is very straightforward to use, and I've got to think in terms of will a client be able to use it. I try and work hard with clients to make sure that they understand they're the ones who've got to sort the content out, or whether it's now or over time. It's long gone are the days where we can just publish online and then expect everything to be all right. Clients who invest in their content, invest in updating it, invest in the blog, those are the ones who are going to be more successful online. Plugins, well, I'm sure you guys are well aware, they're fantastic because they get clients into situations where they can use advanced stuff very, very quickly. Whether it's an events system or all the different kinds of plugins, it makes our lives a lot easier. Things which would be really complex and bespoke to write. So I do love it for that. And of course, it's not a bizarre, old and strange esoteric technology. There's plenty of good designers out there, there's plenty of good dev code, and for somebody like me who works with that kind of audience, that makes my life a lot easier. On the minus side, plugins, they're on the, I think they're no surprise there. Clients will say, oh, can we have that plugin and have this plugin? And you kind of, and sometimes you have a bit of a plugin fight. And sometimes you have a situation where you're trying to style up a plugin and you can get yourself 80% of the way there, and it's the last little bit. You know, the last little bit where you may as well have just written the whole thing from scratch. So trying to get them to understand that they're not that holy grail. And just because we got this constellation of plugins that we have available, it doesn't mean we've got to use every single one on our website. Plugins, they're bane of my life as well. Hosting's a pain. I don't think it's as bad. Was it 3.7, which is the automatic security updates? It's not so much of a pain since then, but I'm a person who likes life a bit easier. I don't like hosting email. Everybody hosts their own email in the room. So you say this to you. Do you like your SPF records and your DKIM and all that stuff? Yeah, I think he's nodding. I don't know. No, I try and have things which aren't so much of a load of grief for me. I use a company called WP Engine. Has anybody heard of those? They're very good on the hosting of WordPress, so I haven't got to worry about all the security patches and all that stuff. And I've got developers to work on that anyway, but I'd rather them work on doing websites rather than the security stuff. WP Engine is very good on, they've got CDN built in, all that stuff, which I know it's not rocket science to do yourself, but it's there, it works out of the box, my life's easier, and the client's life is easier. Feature, I'll still be using WordPress. I love the WordPress community because I think it's paved the way for how WordPress is going to be built in future. It's very much a publishing platform. I love the fact that there's revenue models for everyday folk who can earn money from themes, from plugins. I think that mentality is going to spread out to websites in general. We're seeing technology like web components. Those are very interesting for doing package things, but people can easily make stuff. So I think a lot of the good stuff which we're seeing in WordPress, I think in a couple of years' time we're going to see that spread out to wider websites where we have like we've got an app store, we're going to have an app store for components. And I think the strength of WordPress is just going to go further and further, even though a lot of people still think it's blocking software. Oh yeah, you can block it, but you can do tons of other things as well. I'm always surprised that Google don't raise the game in this space. Is it still just Blogger and Google Plus they've got? Surely they look at WordPress and think, can we not create a really good publishing platform? I don't know. Right, can do my words. Huggy, hello. So talking about the business of web design, that's the main website for it, 2014. This is the website in communicate. 18th of July, 2004, in Cardiff again. A new place to be. There's the Twitter account there, TBO web design. Oh, we got a good blog as well, so there's quite a few interesting articles on there, especially if you run your own business or if you're a freelancer. We've got some cracking speakers there. You may know some of the faces here. Sean Johnson from Freelance Web. Anyone listen to that podcast? Yeah, really good podcast that. I was doing a podcast with Sean on it yesterday, but his internet died midway. Personally, I don't think he could handle the level of advice I was giving him. We just supported each other. But no, Sean Johnson's there, and Stu Robson, Dan Edwards, all very, very clued people. Steve Curdley, not a known speaker, but he's a fantastic freelancer and he's fantastic at dealing with agencies. He's giving a talk on how to compete with those bigger agencies. Paul Boag, most people will have heard of from the web design industry. He runs Headscape, isn't it? And he's got some very interesting lessons to teach there. So yeah, there are some coupons available going into full pimp mode. There is a coupon of London. Yeah, that was really cryptically titled, that one, wasn't it? It's nothing better than that. So that's a 10% coupon if you guys want to use it. It's on the banner right, so I'm sure you can work out how to sort of get to that. However, going into Uber pimp mode, I created a segment called it Londinium. I live in Killeen. We got So we got an amphitheatre this, so I'm in full-on Roman mode. So if you want to get 20% discount, there's limited numbers on that one, and it expires by tomorrow night. So look at that, full-on sales mode. Hey, this is the website, you can't blame me. Those coupons also affect the Port 80 conference, which I haven't mentioned. Great speakers there as well, Denise Jacobs. Check that one out. Stop pimping Joe, it's disgraceful. Right, TBO, anybody, let's have a little look here. Quickly, if you get a chance, I'm going to try to do this now. Let's have a look. Let's have a little look. So see if I can get this to work. Bam, bam, bam. Oh, who's digital tails or digital ales? Is it ales or tails? Sorry. Talus. Hey. I'm ales. Really complex words like that. Look at me, uncultured swine I am. Please come to me after that, please. Okay, let's try and pronounce this one correctly. Pogo Creative. Awesome. And last but not least, look at this technology even work for us. Let's try that. Is that anything? It's stuck on Pogo Creative. Doesn't work. I'll just give up in a moment. I'll do the next one. Oh, Adam, where are you, sir? Hey. Good, well done. Oh, and there's a competition to do with those t-shirts to win free tickets. So if you want to have a look on the blog on Friday, I think you'll be interested. Final thing is that if you're doing freelance stuff, please let me know. I'm always on the lookout for designers and theme builders. If you've got SVN and Git as well, that's a plus. Or if you're a back-end coder, please let me know. If you're hardcore JS with Ember.js, always interested in those skills. I work with remote people, so I don't expect you to be close. Or if you just do night owl kind of stuff, then great as well. I wouldn't expect you to be full-time. So work with me, please. Another man, yes. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is about me. That's me, Joel _ Hughes. There's the visitor website. And I've got to say a final thanks, of course, to those wonderful guys at Campaign Monitor. Thank you for listening to me.